How's it going, everybody? I wanted to bring something new to my bass cover channel. I've been just doing bass covers and I started doing some tutorials. Um, so I wanted to add something to this. I wanted it to be just more than bass covers. I wanted it to be about music in general, since I've always been passionate about video games and I have a channel for that. So I want to add more to my uh, bass channel as well. So I've decided I want to start doing album reviews, and since I don't really have anybody to talk about Japanese music with around here, because no one around me anyway, and I think a lot of Americans who are into the same music I am will agree that there's J-Rock is big. It's very big in Europe and of course Japan, and artists like Duran Gray and Baby Metal and Gazette, they're kind of blowing up all over the world, but it's still not that popular here in America. So I want to start talking about it on YouTube, do album reviews and maybe some other things. But right now I just want to focus on album reviews. I want to talk about Screw's new album, Kakusei, and Gazette's coming out soon, and there's a whole bunch of albums to talk about. But I want to start off with Screw has a new album called Kakusei, and Kakusei pretty much anyone who knows Japanese, and I'm learning. I've always been learning, and I haven't really brushed up on my studies in a couple of years, but I have some more free time, so I'm going to get on it. So I had to look up the meaning, and Kakusei, just like a lot of people who know Japanese will tell you that a lot of words in Japanese mean more than one thing. So you just kind of have to know the meanings of this word and kind of get the general idea of what the meaning is. So kakusei means awaken, to awaken, so that kind of thing. And it's thundering, I apologize if that comes through. Anyway, so let's get this album review done. So it's a mini album. It is 6 songs. I'm going to bring up the songs. I'm going to put links below. They have one promotional video for this, or for Americans know it as music videos, but in Japan they call it PVs, promotional videos. This is for the song Over the Horizon, which I will talk about. So it is 6 songs. I'm also going to post a link to CD Japan, so where you can get the album, and they also have a sample track listing of all the songs. I'll post a link of that too. Um, so yeah, the 6 songs are Fascist, Breakaway, Over the Horizon, No Pain, No Gain, Anesthesia, and Ray of Light in the Darkness. Now, honestly, Screw has been killing it for like the past, I don't honestly, for a very long time. Um, in my opinion, like the Gazette, they just don't do any wrong. They have their own style. Their style is definitely different from the Gazette, but and it's kind of evolved. If you listen to their earlier music, their earlier music was a lot of growling, screaming, a lot of like heavy hardcore stuff, not a lot of rhythm. And then they kind of gradually evolved, and so they progressed more of, so they mix more ballads in, and they mix more rhythm and singing in, and less growling and less screaming. But there's still plenty of songs where they have that. They just kind of divide their albums into some ballads and some lighter songs, and then you have the heavy stuff. Thankfully, I just want to say real quick, I am more into their heavier music. Every once in a while, I'm not really into ballads. I don't. Every once in a while, an artist will make a ballad. I'm like, actually, this is pretty good, and I'll put it on my MP3 player. Rarely am I into that. I like heavy, hard-hitting music with rhythm and singing. I do like if it's all growling, I'm just like, too much, too much. So there needs to be rhythm and singing in there as well. So if there's a lot of growling and hard hitting, like just to work out to, run to, just to be pumped up, I love that music. Thankfully, this album is the majority of that. Um, the only softer songs on this album, out of the 6, are the 2, Over the Horizon and Ray of Light in the Darkness. Now, like I said, Over the Horizon, they made a promotional video for. You can watch that whole video. It's not... See, these 2 songs aren't really a ballad. They are kind of ballad. There's no screaming. There's no growling, any of that. But they do have some heavy guitars and drums, and but it's mainly Bio singing. It's mainly like him getting out a message and so they can kind of be a ballad, but not really. And Ray of Light in the Darkness it's one of those songs where it's like if it can be considered a ballad, it's really good. Like I'd put it in my MP3 player because it's different. It starts off with like this violin kind of sound to it, and then it kind of breaks down into like this out the band playing, and then as the riff goes in and Bo starts singing the riff, then one of their guitar players is actually playing that same rhythm that the violin was playing, but he's doing it in his guitar on his guitar, and it sounds really good as Bo singing over it. It's really hard to describe, but you really need to listen to Ray of Light in the Darkness because that is a good semi-ballad song. And that is a song that even though it's softer, I am happy to have in my MP3 collection. So those are the two softer songs, Over the Horizon and Ray of Light in the Darkness. Ray of Light in the Darkness, that song took me by surprise with how different sounding it is and how amazing their guitar player is to just mimic the sound of the violin on his guitar. Um, Now to the harder songs. The first song, Fascist. Fascist, usually a lot of heavy metal or alternative metal or new metal or just whatever, they like to start off their albums with a hard-hitting song. Um, and they do. Fascist is a very good hard-hitting song. It's not really hard-hitting because songs like Breakaway and Anesthesia, which I will talk about, Anesthesia is their hardest sounding song. It's my favorite song on this album. Anesthesia kicks ass. Fascist it gets you. You know what? The perfect way to describe it, and it's probably why this is the first song off the album, is um, it sets the tone. It just kind of gets you into it. It gives you some energy. So it's like Fascist and then Breakaway, which gets a little harder. Breakaway gets a little faster, and he starts growling in Breakaway. And then they kind of tone it down with Over the Horizon, and then No Pain, No Gain comes on. No Pain, No Gain's a weird song. That song, I like it, but I'm also the most iffy about it. I'd say Over the Horizon is my least favorite song off the album, but No Pain No Gain is a heavier hitting song than the two semi ballads in the album. Uh, and I don't know. I kind of got a little disappointed at the end of it because it sounds like it comes to a point where they're about to do this really amazing breakdown. It sounds really good, where the guitarist is like playing it in a certain way. It's like, oh shit, it's about to go. If like if it was a concert and there was pits, this is the part you would like, oh shit, it's about to go down. Um, but then as he's doing the riff and it's just the guitar playing, and then it goes into like the band comes in and then there's a big guitar solo. And so that same riff is being played behind the guitar solo. I was kind of hoping for a big head banging like breakdown riff, but it starts and you think it's about to go that, and then it goes into a big guitar solo. Sounds great. I was just hoping for a big breakdown. Screw's really good at breakdowns, and honestly, there's not many breakdowns in this album. Anesthesia has the most hard hitting, head banging like sound to it, and that's why it's my favorite. But Fascist, I want to get back to that. So it sets the tone for the rest of the album. It's not too hard. There's not really growling. It's kind of like it starts off hard. Actually, the way it starts off is, in my opinion, really good because I play video games. It reminded me of like an old school boss fight theme. Like the way this song opens up, it sounds like it should be a part of a boss fight from like a long time ago, like video games from like the retro era. I don't want to say like Super Nintendo, maybe a little bit after that, but it just has this really good retro boss theme to it. And then the guitars and the band comes in, and then Bo comes in and sings, and then it's like mainly the drums and bass behind him. And I have a question for any Screw fan out there: what the hell is going on with the band in terms of bass player? As a bassist, it's just like I want to know about the bass player, and I'm kind of like not I don't want to say like disrespected or disgusted, but disappointed that Screw lost their bassist some time ago. He decided to leave the band and pursue his passion for fashion. Um, and the band supported him. It's like, you go, you be a fashion designer, you have our support. But there's still the band, and they made music very quickly after he left. Like after he left, usually bands look for another bassist. Screw did not, unless it's in secrecy. But Screw just kept making music. I don't understand how there's bass in this album when they're not mentioning at all. They're being very secretive about who's doing the bass tracks for these songs, and I want to personally know. Even in the PV for Over the Horizon, it's just the four of them. There's that fifth member, the bass player. It's just who's playing the bass. I personally like to, maybe it's one of the guitar players, and he's kind of like putting in simple bass tracks. Honestly, the bass track for Anesthesia, and another reason why it's my favorite, is towards the end. It gets really hard hitting, really heavy, and that's like breakdown. It's a good head banging moment. And then I love it when there's like good head banging parts in heavy songs, and then like the bassist slaps and pops. And there's a slap and pop riff in Anesthesia. So all together, this is a great album. I'm just confused on the bassist. Like, what's going on? If anyone knows, I'd really like to know. But either way, they're still producing great music. I honestly believe Screw can't disappoint. I was super excited to hear out of nowhere. I didn't know they were coming out with a mini album. I follow them on like all the social media things. I mean, I didn't know, just like out of nowhere, new album, the 19th. I'm like, wait a minute, it's the 19th. Holy crap! Went on the internet and I found it. Um, and then yeah, the free samples on CD Japan, which again I will link in the bottom. This is a great album. Definitely fully support it. The only song I was iffy about was Over the Horizon. Not a horrible song. It's just semi-ballad and it's just not my type. For the female fans who love Jrock and for the ballads, you will love that song. And Ray of Light too. Ray of Light in the Darkness is a song I feel like any fan of Screws can enjoy. Not if you're into the heavier stuff, you'll probably get into it. It's really different. It's really interesting. And if you're into the ballads, you will definitely like it, and you'll think the song's beautiful. So yeah, that's the 6 songs off of their new mini album. Honestly, it's really good. If I had to give it a score out of 10, which I guess is how I'll review this out of 10 because it's the easiest, I will give it I want to say an 8. I'll give it an 8. An 8 out of 10. Anesthesia really kicked ass. Over the Horizon was just like, it was there, so that's for people who are into that kind of stuff. Ray of Light in the Darkness was a surprise. I thought, usually Screw likes to end their stuff with a ballad. Rarely do they end it with a hard-hitting song. But that was kind of like a semi-ballad, and it just, the guitars sounds great, and the violin, and just the orchestra part of the song combined with the guitars, it sounds great. No Pain No Gain was weird, disappointing. It's a heavy song, and I liked it. I'm a bit disappointed that there was no like head banging breakdown at the end. It just went to the guitar. Breakaway is a good, fast, hard song, and Fascist has a really good opening. It's kind of like a steady, rhythmic, hard song, but not too hard. Overall, I mean, um, a lot of the songs, like Anesthesia reminds me of some of the hardest songs they put out recently over the past couple of years. They put out some really good, hard-hitting tracks, and I feel Anesthesia is on that level. Fascist and Breakaway are also kind of on that level, but they're not as, I don't know. And No Pain No Gain's weird, but it's good, but it's just, I don't know, I wanted more out of that song. And Ray of Light it's a good semi-ballad song, but it's enjoyable. It's, just like I said, there's some things that just kind of like, I expected a little bit more. One of the songs not my kind of thing, so that's why I can only give it an 8 out of 10. Out of on just those reasons alone, it's a great album though. So it's definitely worth picking up. It's definitely, especially if you're a Screw fan. If you're into like heavy metal and kind of want to get into J-Rock, Screw's not a bad band to get into. Definitely, I know a lot of people would say like, well, Duran Gray, and I would always recommend like Garugamesh, Screw, or Gazette. Duran Gray, of course, but they're already popular in America. So, that's really all I can think about to say about this album. I feel like I'll just keep rambling. So, 8 out of 10, really good mini album. Makes me look forward to a full-length album, so hopefully we'll get that in 2016. So yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought of the album. If you have it, let me know what you thought of the review. If you bothered to watch it all the way through, thank you. And yeah, have a good night, guys.